what are the different kinds of contamination that an ELSD will have to contend with? I'm going to talk about some of the major areas I see repeatedly across the country. One is your gas supply. Some people will use dry, clean air, compressed air, but compressed air can have issues with moisture and hydrocarbons, so you'll need to run a desiccant trap or a hydrocarbon trap like this. You need to put that in line in your dry air to keep the contaminants from getting into the detector, because the detector will see those things. Ideally, you should use nitrogen, pure nitrogen. However, I've had a case recently where I actually ran into some bad, dirty nitrogen, which is hard to believe, but true. Other kinds of contamination that will cause problems with the ELSD is obviously your water, turbidity, and any of your mobile phases, be it aqueous or organic. If your organic mobile phases have a residue after evaporization of more than one, it's going to cause excess turbidity. Chloroform typically goes bad once you open the bottle, and the turbidity will increase over time for chemical reasons rather than biological reasons with water. So you need to use fresh solvents, mass spec grade solvents, column bleed, silica bleed, common problem with ELSDs, C18, C8 columns. If they're not stored at the proper pH, you go and put the column on, or even a brand new column. The ELSD will see the silica bleed from that column. So if you refer back to the staircase chart and you look at each step of turbidity, you will figure out which step is contributing to your loss of dynamic range from turbidity. It's column bleed, solvent residue, dirty gas. All those things will add up to causing contamination issues on your detector. And then over time, depending on the concentrations of injections that you're running, if you're running high concentrations of sample, like mgs per mil instead of 250 ppm or 5 ppm, very low concentrations, but you're running milligrams per mil, or you're running this detector at gain 4, that's going to tell me you're running really high concentrations of sample, which means the nebulizer is going to clog quicker and get bunged up, and you're going to have to nebulize and do a partial submersion sonication of your nebulizer. So that's a source of contamination, pretty common, especially when you're running in the much higher ppm levels of samples. Low concentration folks don't usually have as frequent of performance problems as people running very high concentrations. Some people will run salts in their samples to control the pH, to keep their molecules in a nice, stable environment. But they'll use salts as a buffer. You don't want to use non-volatile salts. You want to use volatile buffers like trifluoroacetic acid, TFA. It's a pretty common way to change the pH of your mobile phase or your samples without using a salt. Because the problem with salts is that when they come out of solution and you evaporate and dry them, they turn into a crystal. And what does that do? It's going to cause noise and scatter light, which we don't want. We don't want any turbidity. So salt causes turbidity. Silica causes turbidity. Life forms in your water cause turbidity. Mobile phases that have high residue after evaporization cause turbidity. On the organic side, chloroform, for example. So all those things will conspire together to take up your dynamic range and cause poor performance issues on your detector. And it could be one of those things, it could be all of those things.